Pennsylvania DUI fines and jail time. What you're actually facing. One night, one arrest, and now you're trying to figure out whether you're going to jail, how much this is going to cost, and how long this is going to follow you around. Here's what I want you to know up front. Pennsylvania processes roughly 40,000 to 45,000 DUI arrests every year. The penalties those cases carry vary enormously, and the fine listed on your paperwork is not the full story. I'm Sean Quinlan, Pennsylvania DUI attorney based in Camp Hill. This is the complete breakdown of Pennsylvania DUI fines and jail time, what the law actually requires, what catches people off guard, and what can still be done. How does Pennsylvania decide your penalties? Pennsylvania uses a tier system for DUI sentencing. Two things drive almost every DUI sentence. First, your BAC level or drug allegation. Pennsylvania sorts DUI cases into three tiers. General impairment covers a BAC of 0.08 up to 0.10. High rate covers 0.10 up to 0.16. Highest rate is 0.16 and above. Here's the number worth knowing. According to the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, roughly 1 in 3 traffic fatalities in the United States involves a drunk driver. Pennsylvania uses that public safety reality to justify its tiered penalty structure. The higher the BAC, the steeper the consequences, because the data consistently shows higher impairment levels correlate with significantly higher crash risk. Drug DUI cases, marijuana, prescription medication, controlled substances, are typically sentenced at the highest rate, even without an alcohol BAC number. Second, your prior DUI history. Pennsylvania uses a look-back period for DUI cases. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, roughly one-third of all DUI arrests in the United States involve repeat offenders. Pennsylvania's sentencing structure directly addresses that pattern. Each prior offense within the look-back window sharply increases mandatory minimum penalties. And once mandatory minimum jail applies, a judge cannot simply set it aside because you have a good job or a family. The floor is set by law. First offense penalties by tier. Let's go tier by tier for first offenses. General impairment, first offense. No mandatory jail in most cases, standard outcome, probation up to 6 months, a fine starting around $300, alcohol highway safety school, and a drug and alcohol evaluation with treatment if ordered. In many first offense general impairment cases, there's no license suspension. This is where ARD most commonly enters the picture. According to data from the Pennsylvania Commission on Sentencing, a significant proportion of first offense DUI cases in Pennsylvania resolve through ARD rather than conviction, meaning a large number of people charged with a first offense DUI avoid a permanent criminal conviction entirely. Complete ARD successfully, and you can later petition for expungement. High rate first offense. Mandatory minimum of 48 hours in jail. Fines from $500 to $5,000. A 12-month license suspension. Required classes and evaluation. According to the American Automobile Association, AAA, the average total cost of a DUI, including fines, legal fees, insurance increases, and related expenses, runs between $10,000 and $25,000 depending on the state and case facts. And Pennsylvania high rate offense puts you firmly in that range once every cost is counted. Losing your license for 12 months in Pennsylvania is not a minor inconvenience. It can turn your entire daily routine into a logistics nightmare. And in areas without meaningful public transportation, it can directly threaten your ability to keep your job. Highest rate or drug DUI first offense. Mandatory minimum of 72 hours in jail. Fines from $1,000 to $5,000. 12-month license suspension. More extensive treatment requirements. Refusing chemical testing adds another layer. Pennsylvania's implied consent law can trigger a separate PennDOT license suspension, independent of the criminal case. That can start moving before the court is anywhere close to resolved. Second and third offense penalties. Repeat DUI cases are where mandatory minimums become the main event. Second offense general impairment, mandatory minimum of 5 days in jail, fines starting around $300, 12-month license suspension. Second offense high rate, mandatory minimum of 30 days in jail, fines ranging from $750 to $5,000, 12-month license suspension. Second offense highest rate, or drug DUI, this is above a 0.16, mandatory minimum 90 days in jail, fines from $1,500 to $10,000, 18-month suspension. That jump from 5 days to 90 days based on tier is not a technicality. It reflects Pennsylvania's direct legislative response to repeat impaired driving data, and it can mean the difference between a short disruption and a life-altering one. Third offense, general impairment, at least 10 days. Third offense, high rate, at least 90 days. Third offense, highest rate, or drug DUI, at least 1 year, 12 months in jail is possible. Fine can reach $10,000, 18-month driver's license suspension. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, DUI offenders who receive jail sentences for repeat offenses are significantly more likely to face collateral employment consequences than first-time offenders. Job loss, reduced income, and difficulty finding work after release. Pennsylvania's mandatory minimum structure for repeat offenses sits directly inside that reality. And at the third offense in the highest tiers, felony exposure enters the picture. A felony DUI carries consequences that reach far beyond jail and fines. Employment, housing applications, professional licensing, and in some situations, firearms rights are all affected differently by a felony conviction than by a misdemeanor. The penalties no one warns you about. Most people fixate on the jail time, but the penalties that keep disrupting daily life for months and years after the court date are often the ones that never appear in the headline number. License suspension and ignition interlock. Pennsylvania requires ignition interlock in many DUI cases. According to the NHTSA, ignition interlock devices reduce repeat DUI offenses by approximately 70% while installed, which is why Pennsylvania has expanded their use significantly. But for the driver, that means installation costs, monthly monitoring fees, and the logistical reality of blowing into a device every time you start your car. The real financial total. The AAA study I mentioned earlier found the average total DUI costs run from $10,000 to $25,000. In Pennsylvania, that number includes the statutory fine, court costs, alcohol highway safety school, drug and alcohol evaluation, treatment if ordered, probation fees, towing, impound, and ignition interlock expenses. None of those line items appear in the $300 fine figure cited in a general impairment first offense. Insurance. According to the research from Bankrate and the Insurance Information Institute, a DUI conviction raises car insurance premiums by an average of 70 to 80% nationally. In some cases, the increase exceeds 100%. Pennsylvania drivers typically see that spike maintained for 3 to 5 years, meaning the insurance cost alone can dwarf the original fine several times over. CDL holders. Federal regulations set a .04 BAC threshold for commercial drivers, half the standard of the legal limit. And PennDOT's CDL disqualification rules can apply even if the DUI arrest happened in a personal vehicle. According to FMCSA data, CDL disqualification is one of the most immediate and financially devastating consequences a commercial driver can face from a single DUI. Licensed professionals, nurses, teachers, healthcare workers, and many others face board scrutiny, disclosure requirements, and background check problems that follow the case for years, separate from every criminal licensing consequence. What can be done? The penalties on paper are not always the final outcome. Case details matter, and early decisions matter even more. ARD for first-time offenders? As I mentioned earlier, Pennsylvania's ARD program has helped a significant number of first offense DUI defendants avoid permanent conviction. That outcome, no conviction, expungement available after completion, is dramatically better than a guilty plea that stays on your record indefinitely. But eligibility isn't automatic. Prior history, case facts, a crash, injuries, a minor passenger, and county-specific practices all affect whether ARD is offered. Problems with the stop, testing, and evidence. Not every DUI charge stays exactly as filed. According to research published in the American Journal of Criminal Law, procedural deficiencies in DUI cases, including problems with the traffic stop, field sobriety test administration, and chemical test procedures, have contributed to charge reductions and dismissals in a meaningful percentage of prosecutions. The traffic stop has to be lawful. Field sobriety testing has to be administered. Blood and breath testing have procedural requirements that must be met. When any of those elements has a problem, it can affect negotiations, suppression motions, and the overall direction of the case. The charging paperwork is not the same thing as the final outcome. A number on a police report is not a conviction. How long a DUI stays on your record? A DUI conviction can remain on your record unless there's a specific legal path to remove it. And in Pennsylvania, expungement after a conviction is significantly more limited than most people assume. ARD is different. Complete ARD successfully, and you can petition to expunge the arrest in court record. According to the Pennsylvania Commission on Sentencing, that record relief is one of the primary reasons eligible first-time defendants pursue ARD rather than accepting a straight plea deal, because the long-term record impact is so dramatically different. Your driving record through PennDOT operates on a separate timeline from your criminal record, and proving one doesn't automatically prove the other. Pennsylvania DUI penalties follow a system. Once you understand the tiers, prior offense rules, and the mandatory minimums, and you see the full financial picture beyond the base fine, you have a much clearer picture of what you're actually facing. The average DUI total costs run between $10,000 to $25,000. Insurance spikes 70 to 80% on average. Ignition interlock reduces recidivism by 70% while installed, but adds its own ongoing cost. And mandatory minimums at higher tiers mean the court can't simply go below the floor, even with a sympathetic set of facts. That's the real picture. And the decision you make in the first days after an arrest shape how that picture ultimately looks for you. Gather every document, get the complaint, any suspension notices, and the testing details in one place. Then have the case reviewed before anything is assumed about where it's headed. If you've been charged with a DUI in Pennsylvania and want to understand exactly what you're facing, reach out. Free consultation, no pressure, link is in the description. Subscribe for more straight talk on Pennsylvania DUI law. See you in the next video.